Welcome to the E-Show with Neil Ravin. With over 1,000 NCAA commitments, the EHL is the proven path to college. Turn it up and learn more about the college placement leader at the Division II and III levels.
Welcome to the E-Show, presented by the Penalty Box Foundation. The Foundation's mission centers around their daily motto, "We take care of our own," as they help out all of those within the hockey community who've experienced a catastrophic event. Learn more at penaltyboxfoundation.org. What's going on? My name is Neil Ravin, and this is episode number 66 of the E-Show and the first Team of the Week feature of the 2021 offseason. We begin the no hockey time period with our new champions in the EHL, the Boston Junior Rangers. For Rich DeCaprio, it still hasn't fully set in for him quite yet, but he also has his sights already set on title number 2. The E-Crew comes together at the end of this week's episode to put together the all-time Rangers lineup through 8 seasons in the league. I'm joined now by Rich DeCaprio, the head coach and general manager of the Boston Junior Rangers. How's it going, Rich?
It's going well. How are you doing?
I'm doing
you
well.
Recovered?
caught up on sleep finally. How about yourself?
Yeah, no, it's I feel like I still haven't had a minute to breathe, but slowly getting back to it.
Has it hit you yet that you won the championship?
It has. It obviously it's an unbelievable accomplishment for the guys, and but the funny thing is I think I mentioned it before. I still feel a little. I don't know. I feel like we need to do it again for me to really kind of catch up with our Granite State rival north of us. So, I feel like I'm not there yet.
Of course, Rich is referring to the New Hampshire Avalanche, who have 2 titles, the team that they beat in the championship game. Something that I've said a lot about this year's championship is it really felt like 2 years combined together because of the way that last season got canceled. Obviously, last season, you guys were the regular season champions. You had 15 kids move on to college. That's a lot of guys to replace. When did you realize this season that you had a special group?
Well, honestly, I kind of knew we were going to have something special just with the guys that were coming back from last year's team with Dazal and Young and Shafe and Jack Moore and Rod and Tommy and just the guys that were returning, Johnny moving up, Bailey, Mac, and just a good core of returning guys that were in our organization that, both of our teams last year, even our premier team, they won their regular season championship. Yep. So those guys that moved up understood what it took to get to that point. And so just knowing the guys that were returning and then some of the players that I had signed early in the off season, I started saying, I think in June, July, that I have a feeling that this year's team is going to be better than last year's team. And was it? I don't know. We never, they're very, very similar. But it was a great group of guys, and just the type of kids that we had, just in terms of personality and just being good people, good kids, and good teammates it was fun to be a part of.
And I bring that up, of course, because you used the hashtag all season long for the 99. So I'm not going to list off everyone that committed from that team last year, but you named Connor Doherty, Will Fisher, Mitch Haight, Andrew Keith, Brent Rickett. There was a lot of talent that did leave your team. Was there a player or two on that year's group? Obviously, I know you felt confident going into this season, but was there a player or two from that 99 class that you were like, you know what, I do like my team, but who's going to take that guy's spot?
Yeah, like you look at Rickett, right? He was up at Norwich, had 60 something points, and I think he had 30 goals. He was a guy that you're like, okay, well, who's gonna be our 30 goal scorer this year? Do we have a 30 goal scorer this year? Guys like Blackwell and, Mitchie Haight, who just won the UCHC championship with Elmira yesterday. Were we going to have another Mitch Haight? And I don't think we had guys. I mean, Mitchie and those guys are obviously different different players, but the depth that we had this year, like we didn't have a 40-point guy on the blue line like Mitch Haight was last year, but we didn't need it. Like we had 4 lines of forwards that all could score goals. So we really didn't have a fourth line. So we didn't need to generate offense from the blue line. I mean, we picked up Jake LaChance, which, if he played a full season with us, he probably would have had 40, 50 points. But he was our offensive guy. And the other defensemen that we had were just shut down D and moved the puck well and were hard to play against. But yeah, I mean, it was definitely a couple of guys in my mind, like I mentioned, that how do we replace that? That's kind of where my mind is now. How do we replace the Connor Bazals and the Nathan Young and Schaaf, those guys that really kind of carried us through the playoffs. I mean, they're the frozen finals at least. That line was a beast. So, we got guys that are returning that I'm really excited about. That again, it's going to be good to build around those guys because they lived through it, and some guys moving up and the new guys coming in that I'm really excited about. So it's we'll see.
And I want to get to that top line that you just mentioned, but a name that you said before that was Jake LaChance. You have him and Andrew Pratt, who approached you, I want to say it was around November, when they realized that at Wesleyan they were going to be sophomores. They can't play. This probably, I guess as a league, we probably hope that this never happens again. Have to go through a season like we did. But when you have 2 players that won a NESCAC championship the season before that are still junior eligible, and they approach you about coming to play and stay in shape with your team, how do you even respond to that?
Well, it was really a no-brainer. Both of those guys, obviously coming off the championships at the collegiate level at NESCAC, and I just knew that the experience to bring into our locker room with those 2 players was going to be, you kind of can't turn it down. And Pratt was unbelievable in the locker room, unbelievable on the bench, and had him on a really good line with Andy Moore and Johnny Mal, and those 2 guys really, I think it's safe to say without those 2 guys, maybe we don't win the whole thing. Yeah. But they definitely play a huge factor into what we accomplished.
And you started.
But I think there was a lot of players, a lot of teams picked up some college guys. It wasn't just us. It was, there were a lot of kids around that still had eligibility that ended up on some teams in our league, which was great for the league.
Yeah, and LaChance is the first name that pops to mind because you go back and you watch any of the games in the Frozen Finals. Whenever he has the puck on his stick, it felt like the entire building was watching him. Every single player on the ice was like, oh, that guy's got the puck again. We need to look out. Yep. But then you also mentioned at those Frozen Finals, your top line, which was Bazal and Schaefer and Young, and every one of those guys wore a letter for you. And I want to kind of ask this question based off the whole season, because this was such a challenging year with going almost at sometimes week by week. And for you guys in particular, you went almost a month back in the middle of September to the middle of October, only having played 1 game. How much did you lean on your captains and your leaders to help your group get through a year where it felt like the regulations and the restrictions were just constantly changing?
Yeah, it was, those guys are such good communicators and motivators and leading by example, that, the team kind of just followed their lead. And, we had to make some adjustments where when Mass was shut down, and, we were fortunate that we're only 20 minutes from Nashua, New Hampshire. So, we could skate up there, and we practiced up there for a couple of weeks. And, the guys just gelled. We didn't have a locker room, so it was hard. I mean, it was, I'm not in the locker around the guys all the time. It's kind of the way I approach my teams is I'm kind of hands off and let the leaders kind of take the reins. And, if I need to get involved, I do, but I never, even last year's team, I never really had to get involved. Those guys all understood what the expectations were and how to stay motivated and being, getting together outside, working out somewhere and just being together. So, and everybody understood though. Everyone was in the same boat. It wasn't like it was just our team. We, the message was, hey, you know what, like this is the country. This isn't just us. Everyone's going through it, and let's just keep our focus. And when they say we can play, we're playing. So let's just keep it going.
And that line accounted for over half of your goals in the Frozen Finals. We mentioned LaChance. So you take that line, you get LaChance, and then you put Andy Moore out there. And that was your PP1, which I mentioned to you on multiple occasions since the finals ended, that was probably, in my opinion, as lethal a unit as I've seen in my 6 years in this league. And I say that because it felt like they always knew where every single one of the other four of them would be. How much coaching did you do for that power play, or did you kind of let them just go do it?
Well, we gave them kind of a blueprint on what we wanted to do in terms of system, and kind of let them play within that system. And and if something's not there, what's option 2, what's option 3, and then at one point, probably in January, February, we kind of just let them. They knew what the different looks would be, but we just let them kind of do their thing. And we practiced it a lot in practice, and we let the units kind of go on their own on each end, and we kind of just skate back and forth and watch how they're running it. And, when you have guys like Andy Moore and LaChance, I mean, their IQs are off the charts and their skill sets are unbelievable. So those guys, you kind of just give them the reins and let them kind of figure it out on their own. And they did. They worked a lot on their own and talked to each other, whether it's on the bench or off the ice and drawing things up on their own. And that just speaks to volumes of the type of players that they are. They're going to be really, really successful, whatever their next step is with the guys that are going to college, and then Andy Moore that, hopefully he's making that jump to tier 1 or tier 2 next year. And, with Jake going back to Wesleyan, I think, the confidence that he was able to build playing with us is going to help him tremendously next year at Wesleyan.
And I want to talk about Moore here for a second, because you had a couple power play chances late in that championship game, and it was quiet in the building when those power plays began. But when he got the puck, it felt like you could hear a pin drop almost. And then obviously on that last sequence, he goes through all of his options, finds Bazal, you tie the game. You bring a kid like that in who's an 0-2 from Maine. I'm obviously from Maine as well, and I know where I think Maine high school hockey ranks. Did you ever envision him being the rookie of the year and being just this talented?
I didn't. I remember, I was watching training camp. We were having this was in September or late August, early September actually, and watching our scrimmage up top and, watching some guys. And I made a phone call to one of my guys that I trust. And I said, hey, what are your thoughts on this kid that I had at camp? And he's like, yeah, he's not bad. He's like, but I meant to call you. I have a kid who's driving back from Canada. And I'm like, oh, who is it? Andy Moore, it's from Maine and was supposed to play in the BCHL, but couldn't get across the border. And my first question was, well, what year is he? He's like, he's an 02. And right there, I was like, ooh. I'm like, okay, that's young for the EHL. And I'm like, maybe he's a P guy. And he's like, he's legit. And I'm like, okay. And I trust this guy. And he's like, just have him come down. And he came down for a skate, and immediately with a coin. And I looked at each other like, holy crap, like this kid's actually pretty good. And he's such a great kid too. So it was we were very fortunate to get him. And yeah, watching him was a lot of fun. And after Christmas, I remember the first 2 practices when we got back from Christmas break, he was on another level. I don't know what he did over break, but it was his game even elevated more. And everyone noticed it. The players were like, what did Andy do over break? We're like, I don't know. And so it was, he was a lot of fun to watch and a lot of fun to coach, because he's always asking questions, always wanting, what can I do to be better here? And never carried himself with any arrogance. I mean, he's just a great kid, great teammate. Guys all loved him, and it was perfect for him. And he even agreed it was the perfect fit for him for his first year of junior hockey coming out of Maine high school. Like you said, not fantastic, but who knows what his role would have been if it was a normal year and he goes to the BC. Is he going to play those roles of power play, penalty kill? Maybe not. So I think this was a great, and he agreed, stepping stone for him to wherever he goes next year, whether it's North American League or the USHL. I know he's got some interest from teams in both leagues. He's going to do well.
Yeah. And for me, obviously, I love the Forward of the Year, the MVP awards, the big awards. But to me, the Rookie of the Year one is always special because it seems like those guys, their tracks are just different. You look at the Caden Primos and the Matt Browns that have won that award in the past. And Andy, I have to just wonder, in a normal year, he puts up 56 points in 46 games and 10 game winners. If we had closer to a full season, I always just wonder what kind of numbers that kid would have put up in more of a full year.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think you play a full 46 game regular season, and he's probably going to have 70, 80 points in the regular season.
So. And he obviously led your team in scoring in the regular season by 1 point over another forward named Ryan Bailey. And between Bailey and then the guy who scores your game-winning goal in the championship game, Johnny Malandrukalo, who were your 1-2 guys on your EHLP team last season. I know I spoke about this on the last podcast, but to see players climb the ladder like that and make that impact, how does it make you feel about your program?
Well, it's great. I mean, it's what we want. And to be honest, it's really hard to get players like those guys to buy into that. And it's a credit to them and obviously their parents and their family to understand the process. And, those two guys last year could have played in our top team, and they could have played a third or fourth line role and, maybe be scratched here and there. And I don't know if they would have seen a lot of power play time with our team last year, but with the P team, those two guys are obviously, elite scorers, and they need to play that role. So for them to play on the premier team, they're playing power play. They're always out there. They're building confidence. They're learning the game of junior hockey, because neither of them have come from juniors. And, they dominated. And I always say it, if a premier guy wants to play in the EHL and be a power play guy, you got to put up 60 to 80 points.
Yep.
Because your points get cut in half. If you put up 100 points in the P, you're going to put up 50 points in the E. If you put up 20 points in the Premier, you're going to be a 10-point guy in the EHL. And that's fine, but everyone has a role. So the scorers have to remain scorers. And, those two players understood it and they bought in. And obviously Johnny and Bailey both going to Fredonia together. So they're going to be teammates for 6 years. Yeah. It's great. I'm really happy for them.
And it kind of feels like we talk about them so much as a package deal all the time. So I want to break it up for a second here, because they each do have their own unique story. So when we look at Bailey first, who puts up 100 points in the EHLP last season, and probably if Johnny doesn't put up 112, probably wins the MVP award in the EHLP.
Right.
But he's from Alaska. How do you find a player like that?
Again, it was kind of funny. It was Cos Polino, who was with Walpole at the time. He called me or texted me, and he's like, "Hey, there's a kid that I'm looking at, and he didn't have a team in the Chowder Cup or anything like that. And he's like, can he skate with you in the Chowder Cup?" And I'm like, "Yeah, like that's fine." And I know he was kind of recruiting him, but he came and skated with us, and he still had a year left of high school in Alaska. And he skated with me in the Chowder Cup, and I was like, really like him. Met with his dad, and I said, "What are your plans?" And he said, "Well, we're looking. I kind of want to finish my senior year. We have a really good high school team. We won a state championship." And I was like, "Okay, that's fine." So I knew he wasn't going to be playing juniors. He ended up staying home, finishes the senior year. They win the state championship. He's player of the year in the state of Alaska. Cause leaves Walpole. So now I'm like, all right, now I don't feel bad if I recruit him. Cause was the one that was the one that hooked me up with him. So we ended up, I stayed in touch with Ryan all year, even when he was in his high school season. I checked in with him every here and there. And, he had made it clear that he was coming here and he understood it. He needed the junior experience, and he was okay with, if he has to play Premier or EHL, wherever he fits, he's in. And he didn't even play an EHL game last year. Where you look at I think Johnny played 6, but Ryan was it was great, and we've had a few Alaska guys over the years, so it's been a good pipeline.
Oh, for sure. And then I wanted to break them up because the difference with Johnny that you first noticed right away, obviously, New York kid, but he's also an 0-1, and he's going to college next season, even though he could possibly come back. How do you have that conversation? Right. I'm sure you'd love to have him back, but he wants to go to school now.
Yeah, and Jeff Meredith at Fredonia, we had talked about Johnny even when he was on the Premier team. Actually, even about Ryan. And Johnny had a great year last year at the P, and obviously an unbelievable year here. He missed a bunch of games with a shoulder injury, but I talked to Johnny. He's ready to go. I think maturity wise, it's funny because a lot of people didn't realize he's an 0-1, and I think he's ready to go. And I told Johnny, I said, look, I'm not going to say no if you call me up and say you want to come back, but you're committed, and he's gonna have a great career. He's ready. He's a guy that I think is ready. And I always say too, the guys, I'm never going to hold a player back if they want to go to school. If they're a non-age out and have opportunities to go play somewhere that they really like, then go. So, and Fredonia is an unbelievable place to go play college hockey, and he's going to have a blast.
And we've spent a lot of time so far, in this podcast talking about your forwards and your D. And I think what sometimes goes unnoticed about the Rangers is what you've done in goal. And you look back at past years with Nolan Egbert and Billy Girard, each winning goalie of the year awards. And then you get another one this season in Nathan Miller. Can you first touch on how you found Miller? And let's then talk about how he is as active a goaltender outside the crease as we've ever really seen in this league.
Yeah, and Nathan, I got him from, I don't want to name drop my sources, but I have some guys that send me players, from the Midwest, and Nate's from Minnesota. And as you can look at my roster, I have a lot of Minnesota guys. And, he came highly recommended. I know it was kind of touch and go because he had made Kansas City's North American League team.
Yep.
And, so it was I was talking to him all summer, and, they finally offered him a spot. He said he was going to take it, see how it goes. And then they ended up folding. So it was kind of, all right, here he comes. And I mean, he was obviously unbelievable for us. He's an undersized goalie, but super, super quick, sees the play, and just his puck skills are phenomenal. And that's one of the things when I talked to Nate, one of my first conversations, because Billy Girard was really good at it too. And that's something that I love as a coach. If I can have a goalie that can move the puck and play the puck and be confident with it, I mean, it just creates such a different dynamic to your team, and being able to break out of your zone. And he was the best we've ever had at playing the puck. And I'm so I'll take that over a 6'4" goalie that doesn't play the puck, And so he was a lot of fun to watch, and I was never nervous. A couple times in the finals where he was holding on to it and toe dragged the guy. I was like, wait a second, I don't know if I want you doing that, but it worked. So, he's really confident, and he was huge for us.
And the numbers are just astounding of what he did when you combine regular season plus postseason. He had a 28-3 record, a 1.73 goals against average, a 9.42 save percentage, 6 shutouts, the 5 assists. I think that what stands out about those 5 assists is there was a 2-assist game in there. I don't know if that will ever be touched again by a goaltender in our league. They have multiple assists in a game. And from the way that we've had this podcast sound, obviously you won the EHL title and it was such a special year for your team. It felt like you never really hit any snags, if you will. But I'm sure in your mind, there was a slump at some point in the season. When do you think that possibly took place?
I think right at probably early January, I think. You can feel it. You walk into the rink and, I think just guys were mentally a little drained with everything. There's the no locker rooms. Now it's bitter cold and guys are getting dressed. We can't be in the lobby. So they had to battle through a lot, just like everybody, right? They had to battle through a lot of mental challenges that on a normal hockey season you don't have to deal with. You can come in and you got your locker room, you got the music going, you're showering. You couldn't shower. So I think it really took a toll on them in January. And, we never lost more than one game in a row. We dropped one, won a few, and then dropped another. And so we never really hit a major slump, but that was, I think that's kind of what it was. And as we got closer to the playoffs, we started to realize, hey, we were still chasing the 87s for a regular season title. And we had never really set that as our main goal, but it was there. And it was like, hey, if we can figure it out, we might still be able to win the regular season. So let's just, stay with it. And they were able to right the ship on their own. And we turned it around and made a good run.
A truly special season. Before I let you go and I bring in the E crew, I know last off season, with these team of the week features, I basically had you give us your starting 6. If you could pick an all-time starting 6 that you put out for a Frozen Finals game with 3 forwards, 2D, and a goalie. This season, we're kind of mixing it up. And with every organization, I'm going to find the top 12 forwards, top 6D, and top 2 goalies and make kind of an all-time lineup. And when you look at the Rangers, you're one of the original 6 teams in the EHL. There's only 6 organizations that have been in each of the 8 seasons. So you have a few more players to pick from. And I know that the E crew and I are going to have some debates here coming up because there's been so many good Rangers over the year. But if you can give us 1 or 2 or 3 guys that you've seen since you've been the head coach that you think that those guys have to be absolute locks, who would you say first?
Well, I mean, I guess I hate there's so many guys, and obviously with the guys this year, I mean, I look at Connor Bazal. But that's if I don't want to take all 3 from this year, but I easily could. You got I go back to Blake Bride, who's at Air Force right now, and Mikey Robinson, who's starting goalie at. What does he count? The age.
Yeah, he did play some games in the EHL, so we're going all-time EHL.
That's right. Yeah. Mikey Robinson. I mean, drafted by San Jose. He's a starting goalie at UNH. So those 3 guys, and maybe on D, Mitchie Haight. Just he was a 3-year guy for us, and just like I said yesterday, won as a freshman at the UCHC championship with Elmira. So there's a lot. I mean, there's a ton.
Yeah. Well, we'll let you jump off, and I'll start the debate with them because it's going to be fun. There's been so many good players over the year, and it did, like I said to you on the ice in the championship celebration, it felt like this title for you guys was a long time coming, maybe kind of 2 years in the making. So congrats again.
Thanks a lot. It was a lot of fun. You did a great job at putting that together at the Frozen Four.
Thank you.
You guys were great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks again to Rich DeCaprio for coming on the podcast and kicking off our Team of the Week features here for the off season. And with that, let's bring in the E crew. And guys, it's time for our first big debate of the off season as we make the all-time Rangers lineup.
This is hard.
It's going to be exciting, though. I love all these old names. We won't give any away, so we want to keep people here for the full episode. But really exciting to see the beginning of our EHL career names. Now we're all old vets in here in the Eastern Hockey League, Neil.
In classic Rich, right? Like I at the end of the interview, I pointed out like give me just a couple locks to start. 2, 3, I get 4, obviously. And that's how he wants to start. The guys that he's given me so far, Connor Bazal, who wore a C for him this season, of course, was the Frozen Finals MVP. Blake Bride, who played actually in every single tier of USA hockey. Played in the EHL, NA, and USHL.
He's been a good player for Air Force. I've seen him at Bentley for a few years, Neil.
And he, of course, was found by Rich at the CCM Showcase, which is something that the EHL attends every year out in Denver. So really a true progression that he worked his way up to Air Force. I wasn't surprised that Rich pointed out Mitch Haight, obviously a 3-year guy.
Yep.
A 3-year guy. For
the
that
king.
team.
He was awesome.
You know what this should be? This should be about the lineup and story time, because the last time we had the All-Star Series and we played 3 college teams, obviously Mitch Haight was one of the defensemen on that team, and he walks in with a walking boot. And
my God, I forgot about that.
The entire coaching staff goes, "What is that?" "Oh, I wear it after the games. I'm fine on the ice." And like he
protects my feet, coach.
He was totally fine on the ice, but like off the ice, we were like, "Is your foot broken? Like, is your ankle broken?" But like,
would we be worried? No,
like
that's fine.
One of the toughest kids, but honestly, like one of the nicest kids too.
Oh my God, he's the nicest kid, and they have the nicest family. Like, they're the best.
Yes.
Yeah, he was a heck of a defenseman. He was one of those guys that I actually had all 4 of these on my Coach DeCaprio list, so I'm glad we're matching up there, Rich.
Well, so the 4th guy he has Mike Robinson in goal.
That's a tough one, though.
And like we'll get to the goalie last. Let's get to the goalie last. Let's start filling in the rest of the forwards. I think we're gonna leave Bazal and we're gonna leave Bride. I think we then have to fill in this season's Rookie of the Year. I think
heck yeah, we do.
You knew Brittany was going to throw that A more all day.
Yes.
Yep.
I think you then have to put in the leading scorer from the 99 group that he had.
Had him
Brent
as well.
Rickett.
Yep.
Right. Norwich is that good? I don't know.
Best team in college hockey, and Division III hockey.
For anyone that knows, when I say is that good, I'm not seriously asking the question. It's simply a joke.
As we continue to give the legend of our language here on the podcast.
Is that good is not serious.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Another climb the ladder type player that I feel like we have to include is Mike McPherson.
He was on my list.
Yes.
Same.
So what's funny is like, who are these 2 players the same? Mike McPherson and Johnny Malandrucolo? Like, they legit to me feel the same. They each won an EHLP MVP award and then went on and did well in the EHL and now are moving on to college. I guess what Malandrucolo has on McPherson is that Malandrucolo has an overtime championship game winner. But they both won EHLP MVP awards. And I if I had to give an edge, I guess you could say, to one, Mike was so good.
I was just gonna say, like, he also like spent some time in the null and the CC. Yes. So he went up a little bit, and then he came back. Remember, right before the trade deadline at the end of that season, and he had like 26 points in 10 games at like the very end when he came back for those like 10 games. Like, what?
Yes, and I
kind of that big season that Malandrucolo probably would have had if we played the full season and he didn't get injured. 64 points in 48 games. That was in the 16-17 season.
And speaking of
a lot of points in junior hockey.
Yes, and speaking of championship game winners and kind of sticking with this ladder, I think we have to include this player because
Danilo Lariana.
What a little gem he is.
He likes Philly.
Yes, and he had the EHLP game-winning goal in the first ever Frozen Finals back in 2017-18. This is like a history lesson for all of us, actually.
Yeah, this is
all the comments we just threw in the broadcast 2 weeks ago, too, Neil. Last time we had overtime was the last time we were here in Philly.
Yes.
Which was the last time the Rangers were here in Philly.
Crazy, right? So right there, we have 6 forwards already in Bazal, Bride, Moore, Rickett, McPherson, and Larionovs.
I got one for you if we stick on the European train. Daniil Ovchinnikov.
He was.
Oh God, that's Rich's favorite person of all time.
The Russian gas.
Like,
is he Russian? I think he was Russian.
He was Russian.
Yeah, oh my God, look at his freaking name. Yeah, he was.
Well,
Russian.
I didn't know if he was Russian from Czech Republic. Those European guys, they all kind of mixed through, you know.
He's Russian as heck.
He was good.
What's so great about all these names that we've named so far? So,
look at his game winners.
He just took the thought out of my head. 9 game-winning goals. Larionov's 2 is obviously a little bit less, but he had plenty in the EHLP, right?
Yep. McPherson was another one with a bunch of game winners. Yep.
McPherson had 7. We already said Brett Rickett. He had 9. Andy Moore this season, it says 8 there, but you got to include 2 more in the playoffs, so he had 10.
Double digits. Yeah.
This group is ridiculous so far.
Yeah.
So that
gives hard. Forwards, they had a bucket of forwards. I could have probably put like 15 to 20 when I was doing the research, and so far, good list, I think.
Good list. And
good list.
Good list.
Sticking with.
I had this kid. I don't know how to say it.
Brittany, give us one.
This kid, Eric
Zohovs.
Yes. Yep, I won't try to say the last name.
And he
point per game in Shreveport after he left BJR.
Only 2 game winners. Boo!
Come on, Eric. But then he went to the Phantoms for a little in the U show.
Yes, and he was Division 1. He had Division 1 commitments. Yeah, I think he had 1 or 2.
No, he played last year at Fairbanks, but then he went back to the homeland.
Yes,
of Latvia.
I think once you play, I think he played in some level of pro that doesn't allow him to go back to college now. But a special talent, and that was from the dating myself. That was my first year. My first year, 2015-16.
Well,
so now we're getting towards the bottom, the back end of our forwards. Bottom. These guys are going to be ridiculous. I think
Johnny Andrews was another one, right?
Johnny Andrews was another. That was kind of like, you want to talk about EHL and EHLP comparisons. You have the modern day Malin Trucolo Bailey with the past Andrews and McPherson. That was kind of the 2 different duos that they've had. I do want to go back to this season's team because we have 2 forwards so far. And
I feel like we need more from that, but then there's so many more from the history too. That's what made this kind of
right. Like Zach Norby,
Norby. Yep, he's another one.
And another kid that climbed the ladder, right? Norby and Grealish both climbed the ladder from EHLP to EHL. If we have to pick a max of 2 more or 1 more from this season's team.
I hate it here. No, thank you.
Well, you know, Britt might lean towards Younger, or Schaefer was a monster too, and especially after watching the playoffs.
Get up, Maryland.
Yeah. Then you got Malin Drukolo. Don't look at his points.
But then Ryan Bailey.
Bailey too. Yep.
Oh, I hate it here. Too many.
And then Bailey's got that other really good story of the progression from the P to the EHL. So like we said, that's the biggest thing with this league, right? Is getting yourself from the Malin Drukolo to be potting 100 points in the P, get to the EHL, score big time points there, win a championship, move on to college. That's the progression we want. And then, like you said too, Brittany, with other guys that have moved on to the NAL, the Cal Mels of the world, right? They use the EHL as kind of like a springboard. They played for the Express and then they move on and play in the NAHL and then move to college and stuff. And players like that, which the Rangers, as we've recapped, have a ton of.
Larionov's played last year in Springfield.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think he's in the KHL now. He's playing pro.
So he was in the Thunderbirds. That's right.
So I think that we do have to pick at least 1 more, like I said, from this year's group. Maybe we'll say 2, right?
Close our eyes and point.
Should we do a slash?
I think that I want to include. I want to include him at least, and Ryan Bailey. Yep. And I think that I want to include Nathan Young as a 3-year player, right?
Yep.
True.
Which then gets us down to the final 2. I know that leaves off, and like it's crazy to say leaves off, but it's going to leave off a guy like Joey Schaefer, who played 2 seasons for this team and is going to have a special career. We know he will at Nazareth. But then we kind of keep working from there, and not as many points for this guy. But the one thing that I remember constantly about him were the face-offs. And Danny Sorabella won every single draw that he had to win. And if you want to keep on this progression train. He went. I don't even know how many seasons he played for the Rangers. Must have been 4 or 5 because he played.
He was on almost every stat that you said.
It does help. It does help that,
the last name.
That his uncle does own the team.
Yeah, I was going to say Uncle Mike.
Right, Uncle Mike. But the kid's good. I mean, he plays at Wesleyan, so.
Plays at Wesleyan. Look how many, when you pull up his EP, look how many times it says Boston
Junior Rangers.
He's a pro.
He lived in that system.
Dude, the first one was 2013-14.
Yes. And that's 16U. And the Met team and the EHLP and the 18U and then the EHL team for a couple of years. We're an A for that. And obviously now at Wesleyan. And then that leaves one guy left for us.
Ooh. And let me get my list out. What about Connor Doherty? He's another name.
You just took the name right out of my head. When he had a chance to shoot, look out. Like his shot, his shot was as hard as hell. And
he was on the same Rickett team. He was on the 1920 team, right? Yeah.
And I kind of mentioned that to Rich, like, you lost Rickett and Doherty. Like, how did you expect to replace that? Like
with Andy Moore,
right? Andy
and Connor Bazal again.
Hey, look at it. You took Brent Rickett from Maine. You replaced him with Andy Moore from Maine. It's great. Maine replacements.
Maybe keep those recruiting trips up to Maine, Rich.
Yes,
find good guys up there.
What's great, guys, is we only have finished the forwards so far. Now we have to get to the D, and
I think D's interesting.
We have Mitch Haight so far.
Hard.
I think that the easy.
I had another one.
The next easiest one you have to say from this season is LaChance. I think you
have. I didn't have him on my list actually.
Me either, TBH.
Because he was so quick.
Yes, in a full season though, I think that he would have been the defenseman of the year. Like he was that talented. This season,
if you replicate his points of what he did in the short time, what was it, 20 games he played, and he had like 20 points?
Yes.
It was like 6 goals, 17 assists, somewhere around there.
Crazy, right? And I look back at past seasons to try and remember defensemen. Do you remember this guy and how big?
Wait, tell me it's Damian Dan Geiger?
I was going Dante Fleury first, right?
Fleury, okay. Look at that picture.
It says 6'4", right? It says 6'4". It felt like it was like 3 inches taller than that. He was a monster.
Skates, man.
Yes.
Fleury. I'm trying to remember him.
He was a monster.
Oh, he was back. Okay, so he was 15, 16. That was your first year.
That was my first season.
Yep.
I'm trying to find the defenseman that you just named. What year?
Remember Damian Geiger?
He was on the same team as McPherson and Grealish.
I think 16, 17.
So this is...
Oh, Damian. He's such a great human being.
He was another big kid left shot. I remember seeing him a lot during the showcases. Those were back in the
He goes to Western New England.
Good player.
Are we including him?
Let's do it.
Brittany, you like?
Great kid. He's
Brittany,
from France.
You're the best with the pronunciations. I think it was
Damian Dan Weger.
Okay, that's
Dan Weger, not Dan Geiger.
Yep. No,
I'm just making sure.
French people. It's French.
Dan Weger. Dan Weger. I remember his name being a tough one on the showcase.
We have 3D so far from 3 different years.
I have another one. Well, I think it was the same year as Damien, though. I had Jared Bernice, or however you say it.
Yep,
Jared Bernice, yes.
Yeah, him.
Yep.
One of the toughest kids, I think, ever to play in this league. And
small kid, too.
Smaller, 5'9", 170, but he never backed down from anything.
He was like a Torrey Krugish type frame and style.
Yeah. Wait, did you have him too?
I had him, and I have to go find the year for my other one here.
I know. Does his first name start with an N?
It does start with an N.
And his last name starts with a G?
What starts with a G? Nick Grindwald.
I'm a little bit...
Yes!
Oh my God, dude! Get up, UCHC. Him and Mitchell won yesterday with Elmira.
I'll be totally honest. I remember this kid, and I potted him in my research as a forward, and then forgot. I was like, he was a defenseman. He put up points that he put up, though. One year, he had like 45 points as a defenseman.
Yes.
Think about the defenseman we were trying to get for EHL Fantasy this year. There was nobody. Did anyone besides Jack Johansson put up that kind of, I guess, Papa Petros, too, but...
I think that they were guys around the mid-30s or so, but obviously not a 45. Full year.
Yeah, that's true too. We didn't have the full year.
And Grindwald's, honestly, I've kind of used this motto or phrase a few times. He started with the revolution, and sometimes a change of scenery While it sounds like it's almost a shot towards the previous team, it really isn't. It's just a change of scenery could help. And his game flipped in a way when he got to the Rangers. And he was awesome to watch. And obviously, as Brittany just mentioned there, with Mitch Haight, they just won the UCHC titles. So we got two kids.
And Chance Gorman. And actually, there's like a bunch of Jake Russo. I could go on.
Well, I was focusing on the Rangers kids first.
I'm just saying there's some other E-show
yes,
children.
Of course.
We'll get to those other teams throughout the offseason, Britt.
So that's 5D so far. Now we got to get to a sixth, and I don't look at it as a shot towards this year's team. I think that the D here are good when you look at the Latvalas, the Legros, Rodrigue, and so on, but I don't think that they fill our sixth spot. No. I think our sixth spot has to go towards more of a point guy. You know, Jeff mentioned points. Look at the year that Mitch Haight had when he put up 41 points in 46 games.
I got two guys on here that we haven't said.
Okay.
Should we play the game is Neil thinking what I'm thinking?
You have to tell me a year so I know what you're talking about.
What year was he? So one of these guys I know was back in was he the 15-16 year? No, he wasn't with Fleury. No, it was more recent. I'm going to say 18-19. Yep, 18-19. Actually, both guys I have left were 18-19 guys.
Am I looking at it right now?
Are we going with the tank, Anton Medlev?
I was thinking Barry, who I remember more at the Lumberjacks, and then Tom Skoll.
I don't think Dan Barry can go on this list. No.
Okay. All right.
I think
No.
No. Yeah. Well, I think
he played 2 years with the Rangers and then his third year with the Lumberjacks.
Yeah. I think if he may be on the Lumberjacks all-time list.
Okay.
Could be.
Hey, this is why it's up for debate. That's all.
Tom Skoll.
Gold was a solid.
He could shoot the lights out, but what was so funny about him, so this is his first year, right? In the EHL. 0 goals, 11 assists.
Yep.
Second year, a goal and 27 assists.
Right.
He had one of the best shots in the league. Didn't find eyes in the back of the net.
A lot of power play assists. He had
a lot of power plays.
Year 10, the second year.
I mean, look at imagine having a season where you get a goal and 27 assists. That's a unique year.
You're distributed.
I think I do want to go back to Dante Fleury.
All right.
And obviously the size is what stood out for me. And yeah, I mean, it was mainly his size that stood out for me, but
that was why I remember Dan Barry. He was a big left shot defenseman. And he was big.
Oh my God, we love Wentworth.
Yeah, and he helped Wentworth. We touched on it a little bit the last time that the CCC had a conference tournament. They went on that crazy run to the title game against Endicott, and Fleury was a big reason why. And I think that what stands out to me is when you have a guy that's that big at here it says 6'5", but never going past 30 penalty minutes in a year. Yeah, that shows you what kind of
good behavior.
Yeah, shows you what kind of speed he has.
Yeah, he plays structured too as a defenseman. That's a good point, Neil. Because when guys are big like that and they get out of position, they take a lot of hooking penalties because they're slow and behind the play. So
yes,
Fleury wasn't one of those guys.
So now the hard part. And I think what we're going to start to do is we'll cut out the years when we know there's not a guy there. So you got to cut out 2013.
Goaltenders.
Yes, you got to cut out 2013, 14, and
we have 4 that we know of.
Yes, we know of
literally
Mike Robinson. I'm going to pull them all up side by side for us here.
Billy Gerard, who we're sad that we didn't get to say his name at the Frozen Finals because we figured he was going to be there.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that he didn't get a chance to play.
He didn't get his moment. Yeah, there's Grunwald's 32 points, 10 goals, 22 assists for defenseman in a year. Is that good? Yeah, I think so.
Is that good?
So I got Mike Robinson pulled up. I have Nolan.
Who plays
Egbert.
at UNH now?
Yep, Nolan Egbert pulled up. I have to get Billy Gerard up, and then Nathan Miller.
Yeah.
And
when you're goaltender of the year, you get yourself vaulted into the. It might only been 1 year, but.
It's Baby Reba.
Yeah, Baby Reba. We love you, Carl's Reyes Reba.
He had some great numbers.
He did. Talk about a diminutive goalie. Holy heck.
So what's funny about this group, right? And you look at Miller, you look at Girard, and you look at Egbert. Everything that they have in common is they each won a goalie of the year award.
Mm-hmm.
Robinson didn't.
But
why?
Was it Caden Primo's year?
There was 14, 15. I guess I got to go to the record books and even see who won that year. But Robinson is the one that's playing Division I at UNH right now and got drafted by the San Jose Sharks, I want to say. Trevor Machucci is the one that won that season. Went on to play at Buffalo State. So, I mean, but here you go. And you look at the goaltender of the year awards. Look how many times the Rangers' name shows up.
1, 2,
right?
3.
That's crazy.
And I hadn't even got the chance to mention it to Rich about how it translates over to the EHLP, right? In the EHLP, he's got Logan Palmer there this season as well. And then Mike Pagluka from my very first year, 2015-16.
Oh, so Pagluka, that's right.
We spent so much time talking about the forwards and the D with the Rangers, but they've been so sound and stellar in the back end also in goal that you almost forget about it. If you're going based off of pure numbers and when you compare these guys to each other, I have to say that
Girard.
I have to say that what Miller did this season may be the best. It's numbers wise,
and just look, like you said, those numbers just kind of
and like what's tough is, Rich wants to include Robinson because of where he's at and whatnot, and
right.
And the one hard part that I have is he didn't get a chance to really play that season with the Rangers. He was one of, I want to say, 3 goalies or so that they had. This was the 2014-15 season, played 8 games, right?
Right.
Oh, so it's like...
You look at Nolan Egbert first. He won 43 games in this league.
Yep.
And
save percentage around 930. That's excellent. 926.
Billy Girard won 42.
Yep.
And Nathan Miller, those guys each did it in 2 years, right? And we're not going to
Miller won 21 games this year?
Miller won 21 and then 8 more in the playoffs. So he won 28 of 31. When you compare that to 42 of 82 for Girard and 43 of 90 for Egbert. And maybe another season of Miller who is an 0-1, right? Maybe another season of Miller back next season would help solidify this. But I think that he has to be one of the two. I think he was that good this season. When you really look at it, like the 6 shutouts that he has, like it hit me the other day. His 6 shutouts already all time ranked 7th in league history.
In 1 year.
In 1 year, though. Like Brendan Brawley played 2 seasons and has 13, right?
No, that's a really good point. And think about, as we have talked about all year long too, Neil, this year of all years.
Yeah.
Different because you saw the same teams. Usually that would be harder to get shutouts again when you're only playing the same 7 teams or 6 teams as the Rangers did all year. They figure you out usually.
Maybe you play other teams and your record's different. I don't really know, but I think that.
And those other goalies played more games in 1 year, so they had more chances to get the shutout. We played less games this year, and he still did that.
Yeah. So.
And there was a lot going on this year, as we all know. So
yes,
a little more in your head than most years.
So I'm taking out Robinson.
Yeah.
Sorry,
no, it's no offense to Mike. It isn't.
And I'm putting in Miller. And then it comes. Yeah, it comes down then to.
This is hard.
Egbert or Girard.
You could flip a coin.
Oh man, yeah, literally.
Flip a coin between these two.
Like it's a coin because Egbert's 3rd all time in wins, right? Tied for 3rd.
Billy has 1 less.
One less.
That's it.
1. Oh my God! Look at who's below Billy. Thomas Walker.
Thomas Walker. What up?
And like, I think why I'm leaning Girard is
because he liked Thomas Vokoun.
8 less games with 1 less win.
Ooh.
So where would he be with 8 more games, right? and a slightly better goals against average, 2.37 versus 2.63.
Valid point.
The 7 shutouts versus 2 for Egbert. And then obviously the save percentages are really identical. It's 928 versus 926.
And then if you look at their games played numbers for those season 2, Neil, because that was the big thing we talked about last year with Gerard, right? The kid never sat. He just played every game. He didn't need time off. He didn't want time off.
Yeah,
he was a horse or a hoss, as we like to
say. He was a hoss.
It's for Egbert, he got tired that season. We all remember that. That was the Frozen Finals where he played every game in the finals too. It's
reasonably so.
It's crazy to think that it's the total number of starts, right? 36. And he had 41 starts that year. It's just crazy. And we said it on the broadcast, Jeff, that the Rangers hadn't won a game in the Frozen Finals until this year.
How?
They were 0-3. They were 0-3, and then they made it. Then they went to 0-4 in game 1, and then they won 3 straight. So you could actually technically say that this year's champion is still below 500 in Frozen Finals history. Oh
my God.
What?
And you go back on all these names and you see all these guys that are playing D1 or some are playing in pros. And
so but I'm going to fill in Billy Gerard. And just to rip through this list fast so people can hear it again at home, we'll have a graphic that goes out with it. The forward unit is Connor Brazal, Blake Bride, Andy Moore, Brent Rickett, Mike McPherson, Danila Larionovs, and then Daniil Ovchinnikov, Eric Zohovs, Ryan Bailey, Nathan Young, Danny Sorbella, and Connor Doherty. Defensive unit of Mitchell Haight, Jake LaChance, Damian Dangweger, Jared Burness, Nick Grinvalds, and Dante Flory. Goalies, Nathan Miller and Billy Gerard. And there will be heat for this because there are guys that got left off. The Joey Schaefers, you could say a kid named Ryan Tierney, who's at Salem State. Obviously, the goalies that we didn't include. But to start off our Team of the Week features with this all-time lineup, which, of course, it's hard because the Rangers are one of just 6 organizations that have been in the league for all 8 years. Right. For a few of the ones coming up, it won't be as hard. You got look at the Seacoast, so the Railers will have 2 years to choose from. And obviously the guys that have stood out for them over 2 years. But when you try and trim 8 years of players
down to this,
which you're really looking at about 400 guys or so, rosters of 25 down to 20. I'm glad that we don't have to make the lines, right? I don't even know.
God.
Don't even know where you'd go first.
It's like Team Canada, Team USA back when we had the NHLers in the Olympics. Fourth line. Patrice Bergeron's on the fourth line? Yeah, well, you got Sidney Crosby and Joe Thornton in his prime. Sorry, Patrice, fourth line it is. There'd be plenty of guys here that would not be, they would be quote unquote fourth liners, but would be wagons elsewhere.
Exactly. So it sounds like I have a package that's delivered here. I think the doorbell just rang or something.
Ding.
But hey, great start, guys.
This was fun.
I'll leave this task up to Brittany because she'll love it. Who is next week's Team of the Week?
Let's do. Oh, you know what? Let's transition to We the South, PLF.
Okay.
Ooh, okay. I like that. We'll do a North and a South. We'll bounce back and forth.
I will connect. I'm going to try and get Catron on with Alo too. I think that would be special. And hey, guys, if we had a hard time narrowing down 8 years to this, I have a suggestion that you start looking back on previous Little Flyers teams because you want to talk about scorers.
They were gross.
You want to talk about scorers.
Oh, God. No, there's so many.
And goalies. So that's going to be a fun one. So I'll get in contact with Catron and Alo. It's the Little Flyers coming up next week and another fun debate.
All right. We'll see you then.
Looking forward to it.
Thanks for listening to The E-Show. Learn more at easternhockeyleague.org and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Also, be sure to subscribe and get notified when next week's podcast is released.